would say this, that, what will bring the royal family down or cause most problems for them is not going to be Andrew and his shenanigans. It's not going to be Harry and Meghan. It's going to be money.
I, William, Prince of Wales, pledge my loyalty to you, and faith and truth I will bear unto you, as your liege man of life and limb. So help me God.
Mr. Norman Baker is a best-selling writer in the same line as Mr. Andrew Lowney, and he is writing his explosive book, which is called The Royal Mint National Debt, More Things the Royals Don't Want You to Know. His book is mostly based on King Charles, the now King Charles. He reported Charles and Andrew to the police for abuse of power and corruption. He was appointed to be a member of the Privy Council in 2014, giving him the right to the honorific title, the Right Honorable for Life. He was incredibly close to the Queen while he was serving as a member of her Privy Council. So this is a gentleman who knows what is going on. He is against censorship and is asking for more transparency in the courts. But it's mostly his explosive take on the royal family's finances, especially the now King Charles. And maybe that is why Prince William is doing completely the opposite of what his father is doing. I'm giving you this so you understand that this is a gentleman who was as deep in Parliament and in the crown as a member of the Privy Council. And he knows what he's talking about. He is renowned for his transparency, for winning, for human rights, for also animal rights. And when he talks, people listens. And now on the heels of Andrew Lowney's book, his book is coming in. And also, he has encountered a lot of obstacles to publish this. So with that in mind, please understand that this is not a bashing the monarchy interview. This is asking or demanding for transparency. It is really a battle that is going on. And I wonder if this is why Prince William decided to part ways with the king's lawyers. Watch and you please decide. I wanted to start by talking about the book that you're going to publish later on this year. When is the book coming out?
The intended date is September.
Okay, I imagine that it must have been quite difficult for you to get the correct info for the royal finances.
To get the courage.
I mean, no, yeah. Well, first to do it, and number two, to get the information available, because I know it's incredibly secretive.
Well, the royal family is immensely secretive, and it is immensely secretive because the facts about the royal family are deeply embarrassing. And if the public knew exactly what they were raking in terms of money, which I hope they will do after my book is out, they'd be horrified. I mean, our royal family is massively more expensive than any other monarchy in Europe by a factor of 10, if not more. I mean, and there's an increase this year in the grant from the government of 53%. It's obscene.
Why do you think the switch was made from the civil list to sovereign grant? I never understood that.
Oh, it's very clear why the change was made. It was made after prompting and lobbying from the palace for two reasons. One is that the crown estate linkage, which is completely false, because the crown estate, by the way, is a public body. It's not owned by the royals at all, although it's called the crown estate. It was the crown lands handed over to the government in 1760 in return for the civil list. So linking the money for the royals to the crown estate, you may as well link it with Lidl or Audi or Tesco's. I mean, it's complete nonsense. But they wanted to link it because the crown estate is immensely profitable. Its increase in value goes up every year above inflation, and therefore linking it to a successful property company gives above inflation increases every year for the royal family. And that's one reason. The second reason is because Charles in particular hankers after the days back in 1760 when all the crown estate money went to the royal family. But back in 1760, the king paid for the customs officers, paid for the judges, paid for the civil service. So, if Charles wants a crown estate back, he can have it, providing he picks up the bill for everything that's been picked up by the state ever since.
Yeah, I remember back, well, I wasn't alive clearly, but according to historians, the king used to pay for the military and they used to
Yeah,
struggle a lot when they went to war because, of course,
yeah,
how were they going to finance the war, the military? They were responsible for all of that. So Charles is lobbying now to go back. If I remember correctly, and please, you're the expert, George the Third gave up the land
yes,
to get a sovereign grant, to get
the
money
civil
from
list.
the government, so he
Yes,
wouldn't have to subsidize anymore the military and all the other
yes,
services.
precisely. And
That's
and
about it.
Charles, I think, in an ideal world, would like to have all the money from the crown estate again, but without paying for anything. It's a one-way street from him. Charles is quite greedy. He wants to accumulate as much money as possible from the public purse. The thrust of my book, having looked into it, is the royal family is predominantly greedy, and that greed is actually the driving factor in the royal family. Public service comes second to their own greed. When you arrive in Parliament, you have to take an oath of allegiance to the monarch, his or her heirs and successors, which of course includes Prince Andrew and Prince Harry. And it's quite difficult to raise debate. I was the only MP in 18 years when I was there to introduce the debate on the royal family. And I could only do so by linking it back to an obscure Treasury paper in 1993. That's the only way I could find the handle to get a debate going, which is shocking. So it's made difficult for MPs to raise matters. Since the sovereign grants come in, there's no longer a debate each year about the civil list, which it used to be. The sovereign grants now determined by the Prime Minister, the Chancellor, and some flunky from the palace, and Parliament doesn't get a look in. But Parliament could and should do more.
Yeah, I actually submitted a Freedom of Information Act request. I just wanted them to verify whether Prince Archie was born at the Portland Hospital. I kid you not. I got an answer back saying that they're not a hospital and therefore they can't tell me, and they're not in the business of delivering children. And I said, this is an official FOIA. I'm not asking you if you're a hospital. I'm asking you to verify because you
Mm,
have a child in the line of succession. And
mm.
then they sent me another email saying, well, we apologize for this snarky response. You can request this information to the palace. However, the palace is not officially a government body, so they're
No,
not subject to the FOIA.
no, the palace as an entity isn't in the way the House of Commons is. Um, you can ask for information about individual members of the royal family, but it's very, very difficult. There's an absolute bar on information about Charles, Camilla, and William and Kate. An absolute bar. Even if you had evidence they were committing murder, you couldn't ask about the FOI element of that. It's possible to ask FOI information about other members of the royal family, not from the palace, but for example from government departments. But even that's quite difficult. And the palace itself, of course, tells you nothing. I mean, I've been waiting for answers from the palace on a range of subjects for quite some time. I mean, to quote a British situation comedy program, they give you every possible assistance short of actual help.
This is one of the questions that a lot of people asking me of my channel. Why doesn't Parliament do more? And this is why I wanted to have you. And also about your book, and because I've seen so much that you think you're actually known for being exposing a lot of corruption within Parliament, and I love that because it's quite unnerving to go against the system, especially
Yeah.
when you feel like a lonely voice.
Well, it is. I mean, I have to say the public at large is very supportive, even if some of my parliamentary colleagues weren't very supportive. For example, when I helped expose the abuse of MPs' expenses, I was not
Yeah.
the most popular person in Parliament, but actually it needed to be done, and Parliament's better for it.
What do you mean they weren't happy you were exposing their expense use?
No, of course they weren't happy because they were claiming for all sorts of things they shouldn't be claiming for, like duck houses and cleaning moats and things like that.
And what has happened? What has there been any crown? I know you reported Prince Andrew and Prince Charles back then to the police. Did
Yes.
anything come out of it?
Look, I mean, in my book, there's going to be a chapter on the police,
Oh, okay, sorry
which
for
which
this.
is, which is called "Nothing to See Here, Move Along," because the police do nothing. The police will never ever pursue a case against a member of the royal family. The Michael Fawcett letter, in my view, was an open and shut case.
Yeah,
Basically
me
said,
too.
you give us some money for Charles's case, for good causes, we will help you with citizenship application and we'll give you an honour. I mean, it couldn't have been more black and white, that letter.
Yes.
But, after months of prodding from me, they told me they're doing nothing about it. Well, That's in stark contrast to how they deal with people peacefully demonstrating in favour of a republic, standing there with banners saying "Not my king." They're all arrested or pushed out of the way. I mean, the police are very assiduous in curtailing people's liberties, but they'll turn a blind eye to anything the royal family does. And that encourages them to carry on doing things he shouldn't be doing, I'm afraid. Andrew, for example, why was there no investigation when there was complaint from Virginia Giuffre?
Roberts, yeah.
Why was it, well, Roberts originally, why was there no proper investigation onto that? Because at the time, Andrews denied everything, of course, but at the time, the position was in the Metropolitan Police, in all circumstances, not to do with this particular case, that the victim should be believed. That's what the official line was. Now, I don't know whether that's right or wrong as a concept, but it's what the Metropolitan Police line was at the time. So why wasn't she believed? But she wasn't, and Andrew was not properly investigated over that. When he smashed into some gates, like some sort of yobbish lout in Windsor Great Park, because he couldn't get his Range Rover through, caused £70,000 of damage, which the taxpayer picked up in the end. Why was that not done for the criminal damage? Because I'll tell you this, if members of the Republic had turned up there with a Range Rover to push the gates open, you can bet your life they'd been arrested for that.
Yeah. I was also shocked to hear, when Sarah Ferguson was not arrested, when she was caught on video.
Yes.
I was sure. I kid you not. I was so sure this woman was going to do some jail time, or at least be kicked out completely. I mean, have the title stripped. I was shocked. I'm still shocked. She's living now in the royal cottage, and now she's joining the family in walkabouts.
It was caught red-handed on film, basically offering to get someone to cash for access to Andrew.
£500,000.
Yeah, it couldn't have been more blatant. But as I say, there's one rule for the royals and one rule for everybody else, as far as the police are concerned.
I am a monarchist. I do like the monarchy as a concept, as long as, because I do believe that absolute power corrupts absolutely. If you don't have anything to keep something in check, it'll just go and go and go and go. At the moment,
the monarchy doesn't keep things in check, and the evidence for that is when Boris Johnson was Prime Minister and illegally suspended Parliament, the Queen went along with it because the Queen is obliged to take the advice of the Prime Minister. So she couldn't do anything about that. She had to do what he wanted. And of course, subsequently, they lost in the courts. The Supreme Court ruled against the Prime Minister, which was embarrassing for the Queen. But I don't blame the Queen for that. She had to constitutionally do what the Prime Minister said. Look at other monarchies in Europe, in Holland, in Belgium, in Norway.
I lived in Norway.
And Sweden. I mean, they cost a fraction of what the British monarchy costs. And the other thing is, when it comes to the new king or queen taking office, they have to take an oath to uphold democracy and serve their country. In Britain, we have to take an oath to them. The elected people in this country have to take an oath to the unelected. So all the way around.
And people like me, because even though I am a monarchist, I believe that in order for the I want a clean monarchy. I do believe that they're an effective body as long as they remain neutral. They don't abuse their positions. But I've seen, like everybody, we have Harry now still pretending to be royal. We have Fergie doing walkabouts. Andrew still unaccounted for, doing all smiles. I mean, Charles, I believe there's a lot there. And I know people hate me for it on my channel, but I don't care, So it is a sad state of affairs. And I do believe that there's a lot of, especially now, a lot of apathy towards the monarchy, given everything that's been going on with Charles. I don't think he's a very popular person. And as you said, it's the secrecy that bothers people.
I mean, it really was difficult to raise the issue. They don't like it being raised, the civil servants, the House officials who control access to the chamber. So that's one problem. The second problem is, and I think MPs are behind the curve here, is that MPs are frightened that if he raise matters to do with the royal family, he will be a vote loser. I don't think it is, because the evidence is that the public is much more sceptical about the royal family than the press is. The press would have you believe everybody likes them, and they're all wonderful. That is not what the public think. If you look at opinion poll after opinion poll, for example, most people who, when they were polled, thought the royal family should pay for its own coronation. That wasn't the view expressed by the newspapers or by the government, but that's what people thought. And actually, what people didn't know is there is no legal requirement for a coronation. I mean, when the Queen died, Charles was king. I mean, why do you have to wait 9 months or whatever it was to have a coronation? Was he not king in the middle? Yes, of course he was. So this is absolute nonsense. The only country with a monarchy to have a coronation is Britain in Europe. The last time Spain had a coronation was 1474.
Yeah.
Norway, I think, was the other one that went on the longest. And that was stopped in 1906. We don't, and it cost the public purse £72 million. Charles said he didn't want a cut price coronation. Well, he wasn't paying, was he? We were.
Why do you need to ask permission to the monarch to raise a matter in parliament that has to do with the monarchy? Why can't parliament say, you know what, screw that? Sorry, the language. Screw that.
No, yeah.
You're a constitutional monarchy. We're going to talk and we're going to decide. We're going to curtail your powers even more, and we're going to decide things for you.
Yes. Well, I mean, look, you don't have to be correct. You don't ask the monarch. You have to ask the House officials, who are the kind of civil service in the House, who protect the conventions of the House and make it difficult to raise matters. But the government could easily do it. The government should be dealing with this. What it needs probably is a report and a deep investigation by the Public Accounts Committee, which needs to expose all the appalling misuse of finance by the royal family and present that to the government with recommendations. That's the way forward. And that would give the politicians cover to do something.
Yeah, because if they don't do anything, it just escalates, in my opinion.
It does. Especially you can't find out what's going on. There's no freedom of information properly with the royal family.
Yeah.
You've got restrictions on what MPs can do in the House of Commons. You've got worries from MPs about being seen to be doing stuff which is vote losing. And you've got, in the meantime, a whole lot of patronage from the royals, which keeps MPs by and large happy. So all those things prevent you from moving forward. But I would say this, that what will bring the royal family down or cause most problems for them is not going to be Andrew and his shenanigans. It's not going to be Harry and Meghan. It's going to be money. Parliament could do more, but the government should be leading on this, and it's not leading. And this year we've seen a 53% increase in the funding for the royal family, which is obscene. At the same time, the government, a Labour government, a left of centre government, is cutting Winterfield allowance of pensioners, is scaling back on disabled benefits for disabled people, and is overseeing a massive increase in local government taxation, things like rail fares and bus fares. So you have to ask yourself, what is this government's priorities? Don't let them tell me there's no choice in these matters. There is. They should be taxing, in my view. They should be dealing with people who are very, very rich, not hitting those who are very poor.
Yeah, I was actually shocked about Harry getting 27 million quid for the Invictus Games in Birmingham, while Birmingham is bankrupt and they're cutting down social programs. The streets are dirty, they're dark, they can't get their own garbage. And I mean, that is what, and even the military, I believe, spoke out against it. But then again, Parliament remains quiet. So I do hope that your book brings, and I'm going to be publishing about it. And I hope you come back to talk about it once the book is out, because I so look forward to it. Because if you're going to have a monarchy and it's something that people feel they have no choice of, and that their parliament can't do anything about it. And it's good for people to know that there are things that they can do, and that parliament actually does have the power to do that.
It does. And my book is out in September, but in the meantime, my previous one is there, which is the hand.
Yes, and don't worry, I'll be showing it too. I'll be putting all your links. And if you have any concerts coming up, let me know, because I would love to see you in one.
It's called, and what do you do? Because that's what the Queen used to ask you when she saw you.
Oh, she did?
And what do you do?
What was the Queen? You met the Queen because you were in the Privy Council, weren't you?
Yeah, I've met all the royals, apart from Andrew, actually. Then if you answer that question, then the next one was, have you come far?
And I appreciate you speaking out. And thank you very much for granting me the interview, Mr.
You're very
Baker.
welcome. Okay.
Have a great day, sir.
Bye-bye.